Hello, Tom Levecka here with a special edition of the Armchair MBA. This is a part two of mob genre ranked. Going to be ranking, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 shows. And giving my opinion on the rank from boss all the way to associate. If you haven't seen the part one, I'll put a link below. Check that out. It's called Mob Genre Ranked, and this is Mob Genre Ranked Part 2. What I'm doing is I'm putting each show in tiers, giving my opinion, and ultimately giving them a final rank in the family. Boss, underboss, capo, soldier, and associate. So first up is NYC Crime Spot. I really, really like this channel. He does a very nice job. Strong content. He did a great piece on the Chin, the Chico story. Also some other great stories on Roy DeMeo, the Cornelia brothers, and so forth. I really think that he's done a really nice job at covering various topics in New York City and also where these things actually happened. He does do some non-mob content stuff. I know this all too well. The second you kind of deviate from the mob stuff, the mob people they like run away and scurry and just don't watch. There's not a full, I don't think, mob show, if you will, but he highlights a lot of mob stuff. And I happily put him and induct him as a soldier into La Familia. Next up is Mob Talk Radio, the OG of the space. I can't say enough in terms of Jeff Canarsi's knowledge, his consistency, his content is strong, and he just does a very good job at sharing kind of his opinion, his views, taking facts. I would put him up against anybody who reads Pacer and does the research. He puts in the time. He's an OG of the space. And I put him in at underboss. I was kind of pushing and pulling between boss and underboss. The only reason that's maybe holding Jeff back to full boss status is, and I don't blame him, he's a full-time content creator. He deserves and earns a living through this. So a lot of his stuff is on subscription base, which I haven't listened to a lot of it, but his YouTube stuff is fire, in my opinion. So actually, if you want, check out Mob Talk Radio, and then more importantly, subscribe to his paid subscription. From a business perspective, he does it right, but he lands very firmly, in my opinion, in the underboss category. Next up is Andy Ruggiano. Anthony was an associate of the Gambino crime family, son of legend Fat Andy Ruggiano. This is an interesting one. So he, ended up as an associate. I think he cooperated in about 2005, 2006. I had the pleasure of being a guest on that show. I like him personally. He's kind of a raw guy. He's very transparent. He's open about his addiction. Extradition issues. Sorry, he's currently clean, and he looks, in my opinion, truly to help others. And I just like his vibe. So, however, he is a little, and again, I don't blame him. He kind of goes an inch wide, mile deep, which he kind of focuses a lot on Queens, a lot on Brooklyn, a lot on New York. So it kind of goes like in that space and goes pretty deep. I would like to maybe see some expanded interviews. He's going in that right direction. He just had an FBI agent on. Who I enjoyed. I think his name was Augustino, I believe. And I put Anthony in and pricking his finger at the soldier level. Next up is Mob Archaeologists. I think this is headed up by Dr. James Buccellato with a few other mobologists. This is newer to the space. I think it's a great show. It definitely is geared towards the mobologists. I said there's three types of people in this space. You got people that are kind of directly or indirectly related, so they want to learn or know or battle some misbeliefs. You have the mobologists, which I think are about 40%. These are people that are historians of the mob, and the other 40 to 50% are the popcorn eaters. This is a true mobologist show, point period. They own the mobologist space. The only downside is the mobologist space is not as big as you would think. They're newer on the scene, so I'm going to put them in at the associate level. I'll let you know when we'll pass around their names for induction. Next up is the original Gangsters podcast. this is a strong one. So this is Scott Bernstein, who authored Mafia Prince, excellent knowledge on the Chicago mob, the Philly mob, obviously the Detroit mob, if you know Scott, and teamed up with one of my favorites who I had on the show, Dr. James Buccellato again, has kind of lineage in that world and knows history, is Sicilian. I won't count that against him. And just a strong podcast. The only downside is it should be bigger. I'm not sure why it's not bigger than it is in terms of commercial success. I firmly put them in at capo status. Next up is Wise Guy TV. Wise Guy TV is kind of a newer player. Has some really good coverage of the mob. Very talented. I like his voice. He has good cadence, and he's really doing a nice job at putting together a nice channel, putting a really good program together. I like his vibe. I've spoken to Wise Guy TV in the past on email. I think on the phone even. If I didn't, but either way, I talk to so many people these days. But just really like his vibe. Really like what he's doing. He gets maybe mixed up in the drama a little bit, not directly, but he comments here and there. I would stay away from that if I were him. But other than that, I like his vibe, and I put him at the associate level. Again, strong content. Please check out Wise Guy TV if you have it. And again, he's somebody that I see his name being passed around the list very soon. Angel Gotti, so daughter of Laker Mahadum, the Teflon Don, had her sister on recently. She does share some stories about her father and growing up, and it's a good show if you like to hear somebody who is from that life, who grew up in that life. But she doesn't necessarily talk about the mob, and nor necessarily is it a mob show. But unfortunately, or fortunately, depending how you look at it, with the last name Gotti, you're going to be branded the mob. She did get marred a little bit up in the drama. She seemed to be pulling away, which I think is a great move. So I was a little conflicted on where to land Angel on this spectrum. Does Angel own a Tom LeVecchio voodoo doll? Probably, but I will not let that affect my opinion of her in the show. I put her firmly in at the capo territory. Maybe in this case, we'll call it capa. I don't know if that's appropriate, but that'd be the female version of a captain. Next up is Mooney Dashcam. Now, this guy is the pillar of consistency, does a really innovative show. He drives around in and around New York City, telling the story of different mob-related events, also some other true crime, some biker stuff, and is just consistent, is a class act, does other shows. He crosses platform and promotes his Instagram, which I like as a digital marketer. That's my background. So he kind of like says, hey, check out my Instagram. Just a big fan of Mooney Dashcam. If you haven't seen it yet, I'm going to put him up at capo status. I see him as being kind of like the next OC Shorts, in my opinion, and he does some really great stuff. Last up is No Excuses with Mikey Scars and RJ Rogers. I was a little conflicted on where I should land on this, but I want to give you my thought process before I put them up on the tier maker. So I kind of said, okay, for the mobologists, they would like it because Michael really has a strong understanding and lineage of Cosa Nostra, right? Number two, we're all clamoring for, whether we like it or not, mobologists and the popcorn eaters, really post-Gotti era. And then obviously the Gambinos, Michael delivers on that. RJ Rogers covers the historical aspect and the creator aspect, which I think is golden. He has an MBA, so although I focus a little bit more focused in on the business aspect of Cosa Nostra, I just think him being a business guy by nature, that bleeds through. So that kind of covers that for me. And then obviously, respectfully, Mikey did cooperate, so he knows the inner workings of the mob, and I will put them in at boss status. So this is my rankings, tier 2 ranking, and let me know what you think. The first one, evidently, I got a lot of emails and the like, and let me know what you think, and check out for more.